Ayah 21, the family of Imran. I think it's a pretty relevant scripture for what's happening today, and probably a relevant scripture if you look at humans as a species and what we do. Usually, systems itself, they corrupt, and then God seems to send down prophets to fix the corrupt system. So if you look at Jesus and the Romans, Muhammad and the Quraysh, if you look at Moses and the Pharaoh, Noah and his people, over and over and over again, it's like the society is corrupt within itself, within its own nature. And the stories will tell you the corruption of those societies. Now, societies end up building a structure, and then the structure itself becomes corrupted, and then that corrupted structure ends up like a disease, almost like destroying the body of the society. And it seems like the consistent arguments here in the Quran, and in the Bible as well, is that they're sending these prophets to. I'm sorry, I'm like looking down because I'm trying to think about what I'm saying as I'm saying it, but they're sending down these prophets to correct the corruption of society. So, by the way, one of my theories is the reason why a lot of people in Canada are facing mental health crisis is because we're going away from nature. Like the way we live is very outside of nature. And I think one of the things that these prophets did is they brought you back to nature. They brought you back to community. Like Jesus says, for example, love God with all your heart and love your neighbor. That's part of being a nature. No, the Quran says, for example, that we've created you to know one another. It's part of the nature. So if we're in a society where people don't even say hi to each other, it's probably one of the reasons why people are sad in society. And it's cyclical. The sadder you are, the more sad you behave, and then you spiral down to the bottom. Anyways, so as a society corrupts, Ayah 21. Indeed, those who deny God's signs kill prophets unjustly and kill people who stand up for justice. I'll read that again. And kill people who stand up for justice. Give them news of painful punishment. They are the ones whose deeds are wasted in this world and the hereafter, and they will have no helpers. Firstly, make sure you're not one of those people. If you see something that is corrupt in nature, usually societies do corrupt things as they move away from their biblical nature. They move away from their God nature. They end up doing corrupt things. For example, I'm sure you know in Canada we have issues with people wanting to do surgeries on children, which is definitely outside of nature. And it's just one of the signs. It seems to be a symptom of corruption itself, of destroyed people on the internals. Now, with that being said, there's going to be people who stand up against something evil. So whatever you think is evil, and you can probably find out what's evil from looking into the scriptures, or you can just use your common sense a lot of the time. It's like murdering innocent people, attacking people, stealing. All those things are evil. And if you have a society in which there's a group of people, for example, who can extract wealth, call it interest, one of the ways that they extract wealth. If you have society that extracts wealth, it's corrupt inside of its nature. And if you stand up against whatever is corrupt, the corrupt power source itself will come after you. But what God is saying, the God of the Quran is saying, is that those people, give them news of painful punishment. Now, I just want to highlight that the Quran is not saying give them painful punishment. It's not saying attack them. It's not saying any of that. It's just give them news of painful punishment, which in a lot of ways, and I want to make this pretty clear, in a lot of ways, it alleviates the pressure on you to fight the justice, to fight the injustice. It's like, do your best. that you can, right? It seems like the common theme, by the way, with the prophets in the Quran, not the Bible, but in the Quran, is if you stand up for justice, God has your back at the end. It's like a hero arc story, right? So it's like Jesus, according to the Quran, and we'll get into this later on, was never killed. Because and just one of my theories so far is like, if you killed him, if God ended up killing him, it's like the story doesn't make sense because you stand up against justice and then you get killed for it, right? But in the Quran, it seems to be like a similar story. It's like Noah stood up for justice and Noah was saved, and Moses stood up for justice and Moses was saved, and Jesus stood up for justice and Jesus was saved, and Muhammad stood up for justice and Muhammad was saved. And it's like the similar hierarchy. It's like a hierarchical thread, which is if you stand up for justice, at the end of the day, God has your back. So I'll read one more time. Indeed, those who deny God's signs kill the prophets unjustly, and kill people who stand up for justice. There are people who kill people who stand up for justice. That's true. Look around. Give them news of painful punishment. They are the ones whose deeds are wasted in this world and the hereafter. So how you look at this is how you look at God. So if you see somebody doing evil, are they really harming you, or are they really just harming themselves? Are they harming the person that they're attacking, or are they harming themselves? Depends on what matters, right? If you only believe that this world exists and it's just the material world, then they're harming other people. But if you believe that there is a God, there is a heaven and hell, and our souls is our energy that lives within us, and what we do in our subjective experience affects our own souls, then essentially they're harming themselves. And you know this because if you look at soldiers after they've been to war, their post-traumatic stress disorder, their PTSD, has a lot to do with the things that they've done and they've seen done, as opposed to things that have happened to them, which is fascinating, which indicates that, according to the Muslims, you have this thing called the fitra, right? And which indicates that every human being has this idea of a fitra, and they're almost haunted by the things that they're doing. They're a tortured soul. And tortured souls are the ones who have painful punishment. It seems to be this consistent threat, whether you believe it or not. A tortured soul, I believe that they're living in hell right now. Like that person with PTSD, hell. And what happens is you return to God, you turn around, you ask for forgiveness, you try to change your life around. And God is the most merciful, the most forgiving. So if you turn your life around, what happens is God forgives you, and he gives you an opportunity to forgive yourself, which means that you're not living on hell on earth. Now, with that being said, I'm not arguing for the afterlife or the before life. I'm talking about right now, your soul right now. Your soul right now, you can feel it. Like if you're covered with dark energy, you can feel it. And no wonder, like where you are now is similar, I guess it's like a consistent with where you're going to go after you die. Indeed, those who deny God's signs kill the prophets unjustly and kill people who stand up for justice. Give them good news. Give them good news of painful punishment. Good news of painful punishment. They are the ones whose deeds are wasted in this world and the hereafter, and they will have no helpers. Thanks for listening. Stay strong.